In this episode, we'll take a look at the Saramonic Blink 500 dual channel wireless microphone system. This is the B2 kit. Let's get in there and take a look. In this episode, we're going to take a look and a listen to the Blink 500 wireless microphone system from Saramonic. This particular kit that we're using is the B2 kit. That includes a single receiver and two transmitters with microphones for each of them. And those two transmitters transmit to that single receiver, and then you feed that into your camera. So this is really nice because you get two different microphones in a single kit. In addition, this system uses the 2.4 gigahertz wireless frequency, so it uses the same frequency as Wi-Fi and is therefore legal to use in pretty much every country in the world. There are other kits available that have receivers that connect to Lightning ports on iOS devices and USB-C ports on Android devices. So you have a lot of different options here. We're just going to cover the one that's made mainly for cameras like mirrorless cameras and DSLRs. This same kit here can actually connect to mobile devices if you have a 3.5mm TRRS jack, the standard jack on most phones, which seems to be disappearing these days. Let's do a quick run through the specs. First of all, distance-wise, they say that this should transmit reliably up to 50 meters. The battery life should be up to 6 hours with the internal lithium polymer batteries, and you can also power via USB-C inputs on each of the transmitters and the receiver if you need longer runtime. The transmitters have a 3.5mm microphone input jack, and they also have an inbuilt microphone, so if you want to work very, very quickly and don't have time to also attach a lavalier microphone to someone, maybe doing a quick interview on the street, you can just use the transmitter itself with its inbuilt microphone. This kit also comes with a lavalier microphone, so you have options, which is really nice. The receiver has a 3.5mm TRS output jack, and you have both TRS and TRRS output cables. That means you can connect them with a TRS cable to most cameras and a TRRS cable to most mobile devices with 3.5mm inputs. The particular kit that we're reviewing today runs $250 US. You can buy less expensive kits as well if you only need one microphone, for example. Pairing the transmitter and receiver is very simple. You basically just press and hold the two buttons on the transmitter and you use the little hidden button on the receiver. You basically only have to do this once and then you're ready to go from that point forward. There is also a built-in clip on the receiver that allows you to connect it to the shoe mount on most cameras, so that makes it really, really simple to get it attached up to your rig. The transmitters are a little bit larger than what we saw on the Wireless Go from Rode. They're about the same size, but definitely a different shape than the Sennheiser XSWDs. And they're definitely larger than the Pico mic microphones. There is no screen on the receiver, it's just little LEDs that indicate different things depending on what you're doing. So let's turn to the pros. First of all, let's give you a little sample of the audio quality, completely unprocessed directly out of the camera. Next up, this is an audio quality test using the inbuilt microphone on the transmitter for the Blink 500. The Blink 500, of course, transmitter is transmitting to the receiver on top of the Panasonic GH5, and the input level on the microphone input on the GH5 is set to -12. The input level on the transmitter is set to one notch below full, and then we've normalized this to -23 LUFS, so you can hear basically what it sounds like directly out of the camera. Now let's give you a few moments of silence here to assess the practical noise floor. This will be any room ambient sound, plus any self noise generated by this wireless system, and potentially the camera as well. Here's the sound quality test. I'm using the Saramonic Blink 500 with the transmitter and the included lavalier microphone. The lavalier is just here on my chest, and that's going into the receiver, which is sitting on a Panasonic GH5, and we're feeding that signal from the receiver into the Panasonic GH5. The GH5's microphone input level is set to -12, its lowest setting, and the input level on the transmitter is set to halfway. So this is what we're getting here. We're in my basement studio. I have sound blankets to both sides, one behind the camera. I have a rug underneath me, a blanket down on the floor behind me, concrete walls back that way, concrete floors. So this is a pretty quiet space, but this is what it sounds like. Let me give you a few moments of silence here so you can hear any potential self noise and or the actual room noise floor.
So that also includes, so it's paleontology, but it also includes rocks and minerals. So it's paleontology and geology.
Okay.
So there are fossils, rocks, and minerals, but by far the largest number of specimens is dedicated to paleontology. And that includes all kinds of fossils ranging from trace fossils, which are tracks and traces of organisms, through plants, and then invertebrate animals, so that's animals without a backbone, and then, of course, everybody's favorite, the vertebrates, which of course includes dinosaurs, as well as other things that are not dinosaurs, like mammoths and mastodons and turtles and that kind of thing.
And ichthyosaurs?
We have a little bit of ichthyosaur material at Utah, but most of it is dinosaurs.
Okay. And what if somebody comes to the museum, what will they actually get to see on display? And now some distance demonstrations. Outdoors, we were able to get actually up to 100 meters if we had nothing in between the transmitter and the receiver. That is to say, if I wore the transmitter on the front of my belt, I could get up to 100 meters away and still transmit reliably. If, on the other hand, I turned away, that's when we had to drop out and couldn't hear the audio anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, this is about 10 paces from the camera. I have the lavalier microphone hidden under my shirt here because you can see it's a little bit on the breezy side out. I have the transmitter right here underneath my shirt, and it's going to the Panasonic GH5, where we have the receiver sitting on top of the camera. This is a pretty brutal kind of test for a consumer wireless system because we're outdoors. My understanding is that indoors, typically you get possibly a little bit better distance-wise, because I don't know if it's because the signals are reflecting off the walls or whatever it is, but in any case, it tends to do a lot less well outdoors where there's not a lot for, anyway, not a lot around. Anyway, 10 paces here. We're going to do this in paces. Each pace is about a meter. So we're at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 22, 24. All right, there's about 25 meters here. Again, I'm facing. So now we have line of sight here. Again, the transmitter's right here on my belt. And let's keep going and see what we get. 27, 29, 30. This is about 40 meters here. 40 meters. And here's 50 meters right here. Walking down from the camera. I believe this is pretty close to the rated distance. So 60 meters right here, 60 meters. Let's keep going. This is 75 meters from the camera. And it is a beautiful, crispy, dry day in the Rocky Mountains here in Utah. And this is what happens this time of year. So it's September 2nd today. Yeah, 2nd. And it gets really, really dry here. It's amazingly dry, as you can see. Let's keep going. And this is 100 meters from the camera, if you can still see me. All right, we're going to do an indoor distance test here. 1, 2, 3. 3 meters from the camera here. I'm wearing the lavalier microphone under the shirt here. Transmitter is just here on the belt, and the receiver's up on the camera there. We don't have a ton of room in here, but it will give us at least a little bit of a sense for the distance we can expect. So 3 meters here, 3 paces, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 paces here, approximately 10 meters. Keeping on the track, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 meters. Next I'm going to go around the corner here, and I'm pretty sure we'll lose the signal, but I'm going to go around the corner and then probably another, I would say 8 to 10 paces in there. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 is as far as I can go. So now we'll bring it back. Again, just to get a sense for how things work out here. Really, some people have criticized these tests when are you ever going to shoot when someone's around the corner? Well, really we're just trying to establish what the limits are so that we know what to expect, what we can realistically expect with this system when we're in a variety of different situations. So there's the indoor distance test. In our real world test with the batteries built into each of the receiver and the transmitters, we got a little over 4 hours powering time when the first receiver died. If you do need longer run times, you do have a USB-C input on both the transmitters and the receiver, and they can operate at the same time that you're powering them via those ports. In our practical noise test, we recorded in my basement studio. We recorded the dialogue, and then what I did is I loudness normalized the overall audio clip to -23 LUFS, and then I measured the silent portion. With the included lavalier microphone, we had a very nice low noise floor, and if you added a high-pass filter, you could probably claim another 3 decibels. And that actually is really, really good. We ended up in the -71 dB range. Generally, I'm aiming for at least -62, somewhere in there, preferably somewhere lower than that. Now, when you are just using the inbuilt microphone, things were a little bit noisier, and we found that we landed at about -62 dB. Again, if you applied a high-pass filter, when I did that, I was able to claim an additional 4 dB, so that was very, very usable as well. But you're going to get the best performance with the included lavalier microphone. Love that the transmitters are so small, they're lightweight. Now, they're not as small as something like the Pico mic, but these also do have the advantage of having a microphone input. So they have clips on the back, which make it easy to mount to, say, for example, a waistband or a belt. And these are really pretty nice overall. As I mentioned before, the pairing is super simple. Also like that they're super simple to operate. The only settings you really have is the input level on the transmitter. So you basically, I would generally set the input level on your camera to its lowest setting and then use these input levels here to watch your meters until they're peaking somewhere around -12 dB. And I think then you're good to go. There is a 1-year warranty on the kit, and I also noticed that this is probably the most aggressively dual channel microphone system out there in the consumer space that I've seen. Pretty impressive feature set and pretty impressive performance for the price. Now, are there some cons? Of course there are. Every product has some. Let's run through those really quickly. First of all, the battery status indicator is super simple. There's no screen on the receiver or the transmitters. You basically just have these kind of multi-segment LEDs on the transmitters and a single LED on the receiver. And basically the only indicator you have that your battery is running low is that those LEDs will turn red, period. I don't even know exactly how much time you have left when they do turn red. So that's not the most ergonomic or useful way to work, but just thought you should know. The inbuilt batteries are lithium-ion, so this is a little bit of a positive and a negative depending on how you look at it. It is a positive from the standpoint that you don't have to futz around with AA or AAA batteries. However, on the not-so-good side, once these batteries are spent, depleted, and aren't working anymore, it won't hold a charge, there is no sort of current battery replacement program offered by Saramonic. That may change in the future, but as of right now, that's not the case. There is no setting, as far as I can tell, to, say, for example, send microphone 1 to the left channel on your camera and microphone 2 to the right channel on your camera so that you could mix them more carefully in post. It looks like it just mixes them basically center for the most part, and so that gives you fewer options in post, but if you want a very simple workflow where you're going to record and basically upload right after that, then this works out okay. And then finally, the 3.5mm inputs on the transmitters are off on the side of the transmitters as opposed to the top. It's not a deal breaker for most circumstances, but it's a little bit awkward. And also those 3.5mm plugs don't lock. So a couple of downsides, but again, on a consumer grade device, this is not surprising at all. Thought you should know. Let's talk about audio quality. You have heard the Blink 500 through this entire episode, mostly with the included lavalier microphone. I would say overall that the audio quality is okay. Now, I want to put this in context. We're talking about a consumer wireless system. I think it's going to be better in most cases than putting a shotgun microphone on top of the camera and standing 4 or more feet away from the camera. So if we're doing interviews and things of that nature, I think overall you're going to get better sound with the Blink 500. But it did sound a little crunchy to me. So we're not talking about professional quality $500 lavalier microphones here, obviously, because the overall kit for the dual channel receiver system with 2 transmitters and 2 microphones is $250 US. So in summary, who is this system for? I think this is going to work well for someone who's doing vlogging and maybe on the street interviews. It's also going to be good for people that are doing interviews on a very tight budget and things of that nature. So if you felt like the audio quality was good enough for what you're trying to accomplish, this may be a very good option for you. And I think for the price, $250 US, this dual channel transmitter to a dual channel receiver system with 2 included lavalier microphones, there are a lot of features here for a price that is very, very aggressive. So overall, I think Saramonic has done a really nice job here for the intended market. So the one question I know we are going to get, how does this compare to the Rode Wireless Go? How does it compare to the Sennheiser XSWD? How does this compare to the Pico mic from Pico Gear? Well, here are a couple thoughts. Number one, first of all, the Wireless Go and the XSWD are not exactly comparable because neither of them have a dual channel receiver. You can't send 2 microphones to 1 receiver on either of those systems. So that kind of, in some ways, takes them out of the running if that's specifically what you're looking for. The Blink 500 does have a larger transmitter than the Pico mic. So that's a plus because you do have a 3.5mm microphone input on the Blink 500, which you do not have on the Pico Gear. That means you can use lavalier microphones. The battery life is not quite as good as the Pico mic by actually quite a long shot. The Pico mic lasted nearly 20 hours, whereas the Blink 500 we're looking closer to a little over 4 hours in my practical tests. I think for a lot of people 4 hours is going to be okay, but if you need longer runtime, you do have the option for the USB battery input to keep it running longer, or if battery life is like your #1 goal, maybe the Pico mic's a better option for you. Let's talk about sound quality between the Sennheiser XSWD, the Rode Wireless Go, the Blink 500, and the Pico mic. Of those 4, I would put them in this order from best audio quality to worst audio quality. First, the Sennheiser XSWD. After that, the Rode Wireless Go. After that, the Saramonic Blink 500. And then after that, the Pico Gear Pico mic. Now, if you own one of these and you're disappointed by me saying that, I'm sorry. This is my subjective opinion. But I know this question is going to come up, and so I felt I needed to answer it. To my ears, the XSWD sounds the best, but it is only a single channel system, so you have to have a dedicated receiver for every single microphone. Same with the Rode Wireless Go. If you need a dual channel system, I felt like the Blink 500 sounded a little bit better than the Pico mic, so that's good news, especially since the Blink 500 is essentially half the price of the Pico Gear in terms of the equivalent functionality, that is to say, 2 transmitter microphones plus a dual channel receiver. While there's so many things I love about the Pico mic and the flexibility, the beautiful large screen, the capability of tweaking the settings, firmware updates, all those great things, unfortunately, I think for Pico mic, I would prefer the Saramonic Blink 500 under most circumstances. So while it is a step back in terms of knowing exactly where your battery's at all times and you don't have as long a battery life, in terms of overall distance, I think it worked pretty much in the same realm. So overall, there's a look at the Saramonic Blink 500. I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. And if you have not already subscribed, make sure you do that. And I'll be sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk to you soon.